Thank you for joining me. We are today having Christmas in July. And my name is Tina Kavrgic, Northern Stamper. You can always reach me at northernstamper@gmail.com. And today we are going to be using the Tidings and Trimmings stamp set from the annual catalog. This is a really great stamp set, and what we're going to be doing, we are going to be cutting out a lot of the images here. There is a die set that does come with the Tidings and Trimmings, and you can always purchase that, just to let you know. The Tidings and Trimmings stamp set is found on page 89 of the annual catalog, and there is a bundle. You can get the die set together with the stamp set for $54.75 if you like. And you can see there are some really lovely looking dies that come with this. So just let you know, page 88 and 89 of the annual catalog. So let's get started. But before we get started, make sure that you have all of your supplies. The ink colors we are going to be using today with the Tidings and Trimmings, we will be using Bumblebee, Cherry Cobbler, and Evening Evergreen. If you don't have those, but you have something similar to that, that's great. Just go ahead and use that. So let's get started. The first card we're going to be making is a bit of a fancy fold type of card, so it lifts up and across. So we do require the use of our trimmer, and you may want to have on hand some extra basic white, just in case that there is not enough in your packages and that you may find. So have your trimmer and your inks, and in the package you will have received some designer series paper from the Tidings and Trimmings suite, and we are going to be using that, and we're going to be cutting this along. We are going to be doing this all step by step so that you will be able to replicate this again. So what we need to do, first of all, we need to get our trimmer, and if these the card base is not scored, I'm going to take you through that and score it with you, just so that you can have it, that you know right from the very beginning on what it is. So we're going to get our little packages out. So it probably comes in an envelope. I probably pre-scored it all for you, but just in case, I wanted to let you know what those dimensions are. So we're going to put it in landscape in our trimmer. And you're going to score the first line at 3 inches. So you're going to do that, score at 3 inches, move it across, let's extend this arm out, and you're going to score again at 7 inches. So you have 2 score lines. They are not a regular card base. So you scored at 3 and you scored at 7. So that's going to give you that kind of fold there for the card base. Okay, in your packages, I had pre-cut some of the white that we are going to be placing on. So, okay, so we're going to have that on the bottom, and there's one on the top. So the one on the top is 5 1/4 by 2 3/4. And this is 5 1/4 by 1 1/4. So just so that you know. What we need to do now is cut the designer series paper to the right dimensions. And we are going to be using, for the bottom part, there is, we're going to get the designer series paper that has this beautiful color on one side, and we're going to actually be using the herringbone on the other side. Okay, so what we need to do is we're going to place this in, and we're going to cut it at 5 inches. So we're going to take that, cut it at 5 inches. Now, because this is a little piece and it should be 1 inch, perfect, it is already 1 inch, and that's what we need. So I'm just going to cut this down and make it for the bottom. So that's 5 inches long by 1 inch high, and that is going to fit on that one bottom piece of a basic white. Since I have this in my hand and I'm not wrapping any more ribbon around, let's get these two pieces placed together. So let's add some adhesive on this, and you can decide actually what side you want, but I am using the herringbone, and I'm going to place it in the center so there's a nice white border all the way around. So I got this out of the way. So that is 1 inch by 5 inches. The next piece I want to cut, you can choose from whatever you like, but I am using these little holly berries. And what you're going to do, and on the back is the Sahara sand with the snowflakes, and you're going to cut that at 5 inches, so 5 inches by, and it's going to be 2.5. So you want 5 inches along and 2.5 high. Okay, and what's that going to do? That is going to fit on that white piece of Designer Series paper. So let's get our trimmer out of the way. And let's just glue this down. We are going to be adding ribbon, but it will be around the basic white also. So let's just glue that down first. Get the pieces out of the way so that we don't lose them. What you're going to do is, in your pack, is you are going to need to add some basic white cardstock. I may have forgotten to place that in. And what we're going to do is we're going to stamp the star from the tidings and trimmings in each of the colors. So Evening Evergreen, one in Bumblebee, and one in Cherry Cobbler. So let's get that out and place it on the block. So to do this, I am using block size number C, as in Charlie. That fits absolutely perfect on there. So I'll bring it right down to the bottom and top. And like I said, I'm going to stamp one of each color. But because I have the ink already going, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp 2 of every color, so in case I want to use this color on another card or on something else, I'm going to have it out and it's already stamped. So that was the Cherry Cobbler. I'm going to clean my stamp in between. You want to clean in between each color change so it doesn't transfer. I'm just going to press that on the paper there, get any extra liquid off, ink it up again, and I'm going to do that in the Bumblebee. I'm just going to do 2 because I can always use it later. Changing color, I'm going to clean again on the mat, double check on the paper, and the last one I'm going to do is Evening Evergreen. Now let's see if this fits in. If not, I might have to get another piece. So it does. Got my Evening Evergreen. Oh, just one that might not quite fit. Oh dear. So I'm going to grab another piece. Let's grab another piece and get an extra green one out. Can always use that and hide that part that didn't come out on, tuck it under something and use it on another card. I just don't want to waste that. So I got those 2, all of the stars cut out. In your packages should be some different labels that you can choose from. I didn't know what kind of label shape you wanted to use, so we did place in a couple of different ones. So I'm just going to grab a label, and I am going to stamp a sentiment. Now this one here is stamped in Sahara sand. If you want it to stand out a little more, use a darker color or maybe red, and let's stamp a sentiment. So I am just going to choose, let's see which one I like. I really like the sentiment. I'm going to double check that, make sure it fits on the little tag that I'm using. I'm going to lay it down on there. Grab a block. Okay. Ink it up. And stamp. Oh, is that crooked? If it's crooked, turn it over. So, just in case, I'll use whatever comes out the best. Okay. There we go. So I have stamped my sentiment. I'm going to use the darker color. And let's start fussy cutting out these little stars. Okay. Okay, we now have the items, the 3 little stars cut out. And what we can do is bring in that piece of designer series paper that goes on the top. And we can kind of arrange it around however we would like. So I would suggest that you do 2 that are down and 1 popped up on dimensionals. What we also want to do is we want to grab some of that ribbon that comes with your set there. And this is the Evening Evergreen. Okay, it's really nice. And you could make a bow, or you could just wrap it around and do like a shoelace tie that I've done there. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to take a little bit of that. I'm going to measure it so it goes around, wrap it around, and I'm going to use a little bit of Scotch tape to hold it down. Make sure it's straight. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to add a little bit of a shoelace tie there. Tie it up. And I'm going to trim the ends. I like to have them nicely angled. Okay, on the top and the bottom I angle cut it. Make sure your scissors are sharp. And I'm going to lay down these stars again, how I would like them. So I think I like the red one, maybe the yellow one sticking up. So I'm going to put the stars down. And so 2 of them I'm going to lay flat and 1 I'm going to pop up. So add a little bit of adhesive on the back, kind of reposition them where I had them. I'm just going to stagger them a little bit, kind of pop them out, and I'm going to grab some dimensionals and place that on one of the stars. I want to add some kind of depth and so that they're not all flat. And I'll place that over there. Don't want to, so kind of angled a little bit. Okay, I have my sentiment, and what I can do is I can tuck it in right underneath, and I'm going to lay that flat in there and glue it down. I can't remember what side, that one was crooked. So, and I'm just going to tuck in the end a little bit so it peeks out from underneath. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to bring back in my card base. Okay, I'm going to add the bottom. I'm going to glue that down. Okay, make sure it's got a nice strip of adhesive. Glue that down so it has a nice frame all the way around. And I'm going to do the same for the top. Okay. And a nice frame. As you can see, a bit of the stars are overhanging onto the red, and that's what I wanted. So as you close it up, it's like that. Okay, so that looks, I like that. That's very pretty. So that is just using the designer series paper, and that's the very first card we're making. So what do you think of that? This is a really simple card. Replicate it with different designer series papers, and it'll look fantastic. Let's move on to the next card. The next card we're going to make is another fancy fold, and this is called a bridge card. And you can see it pops up, and as we place it all together, we're going to have stockings like hanging on a mantle. So I believe I have also pre-scored this, so I'm going to put that off in the corner. But I'm going to take you from the very beginning. Let's get our trimmer, and I'm going to show you where to score all of the points for that. Okay, I'm going to open up my card piece, and so this is already cut to 4 1/4. So it's cut to 4 1/4 by 8 inches long. Okay, and what we need to do first is we need to make 4 score lines. The first one is at 1 1/4. So you're going to score at 1 1/4. And then you're going to move it across to 2 1/2, and you're going to score at 2 1/2. we're going to take the arm out, and we're going to score again at 5.5. Okay, you're going to score at 5.5 and at 6 3/4. So 6 3/4. Now these may already be scored for you, but I'm just taking it from the very center, from the beginning again. So that's what your score lines are for that one. And all we do is we're just going to hold the paper, and we're going to fold in, and we're just going to burnish these lines like this. Okay, and you want to have the shape kind of like that. Okay, and in your package is another piece of Designer Series, Basic White, and this will become our mantle, and it's already pre-cut for you. Okay, so what we want to do is now let's cut some Designer Series paper to decorate our mantle. And whatever color that you want, it's up to you, so you just grab whatever color you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I really like the red for the sides here. Whoops, I'm going to bring that back in. I'm going to use the red stripes. Okay, and on the back part, you can use whatever color you like. Let's go through. I'm going to use that little holly one. Well, that's a really nice one too, so I don't know, maybe I'll use that. Take a look. I really like that holly one, so let me try and find that holly one. If not, I'll have to use something else. Okay. All right, I found it. So the holly one has, on the back is the Sahara sand with the snowflakes again that we used on the first card. There's the holly. And I want something kind of subtle for the top of the mantle, so I'm going to choose the soft succulent, and it's on the back of this one. That is also very pretty. So, going to need that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut our pieces for each part. Okay, so let's bring back in our trimmer. So the top of the mantle is already 1 inch by 5 1/4. So I just want to double check that. Have to trim off a little bit. So 1 inch by 5 1/4. So I need to bring that down to 1 3/4. Or if you want a smaller edge all the way around, just go a couple of lines up. So just under 1 inch. I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to turn it so it was at 5 1/4, so I'm going to bring that down just a couple of little notches. I want a nice small mat all the way around, so that will be for the top. And if I double check, always double check as you move along, that is going to give us a nice little edge around. So actually, so I don't lose it, I'm going to actually glue it down so the pieces are together. Okay, just going to do that as I go along. So you can see there's a nice edge all the way around. So I'm going to put that off to the side. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the panels on the fireplace set here. So if I double check, okay, and I take my little ruler, I'm just going to double check. So that is 1 1/4. So let's cut it. I know it is 4 1/4. So I'm going to cut it to the height, and I'm going to turn. So it was double check 1 1/4. Now this may be a little bit large, so there's 1 1/4. So before I go any further, I'm going to take this in and double check. Okay, you can have it go all the way across if you like, or you can have it with an edge all the way around. For this card, I'm going to forgo the white around and just have it go from edge to edge. It's whatever you like, so you have the choice. If you want to have that frame around, just bring it down 1/4. So, and I'm going to add these onto the panel here. I don't want to lose it, so move that off to the side. I'm going to adhere it straight to the front panel. And because there is no white around, it's going flush against the edge. If you are going to have a border around, make sure that you center it all the way around. So I'm going flush against the edge, so I have it so it's all together. So there is no white around. Now if I take my mantelpiece from the top, there we go, and that's what it's going to look like. I am actually going to leave that for now. I'm not going to glue this down because I want to do the inside. We're going to take the inside and I am going to trim again. Okay, so I'm just going to double check. I prefer to double check and measure. So I'm going to cut it 3 inches, and I know how high it is. So I'm going to cut it 3 inches. So there's no direction on the paper, so it doesn't matter which way I cut it, to 5 1/4. So, because that's how, no, 4 and 1/4. That's how I know how high it is. So I'm going to put it in, and if I want, because it won't close 100%, I'm going to trim down a little bit. Or if you're really, really good and you are able to get the exact size, that's great. So I am just going to trim off just a smidgen, barely enough that you can see. Oh, it's stuck in the trimmer. So I wanted to show you the size. So I trimmed off just a very tiny piece. I'm going to double check. If you want to have the mat all the way around, then you would take it down 1/4 of an inch. But I want it so it's flush on each side. I'm going to glue that down. Okay. And I am going to make it flush with each side. So I'm going to go along the edge. And I'm going to try and get it left and right as best as possible, because there will be a small amount. It's just for the fold. Okay. So as we put it together. So that's for the panels on that. Okay. Next, what I want to do is I want to stamp my stockings and my sentiment on the tag. So let's stamp the stockings. You can choose whatever colors you like. I'm going to pick up the colors in here. I may not use the Sahara Sand, but I really like how it comes out with the Evening Evergreen and the Cherry Cobbler. So let us stamp some of those stockings. In the stamp set, you'll see there are 2 different designs. You can make them all the same or just whichever one you want. Now, if you have the dies, it is easy. Just die cut out these stockings when you're done. Otherwise, you will have to just fussy cut them out. And that is what, after we stamp, we're going to cut these guys out. So I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen. And I am actually, just like I did the stars, I am going to stamp 2 of each item. Because I could probably use it on another one. That one's a little too far down, so maybe I'll make 3. So there we go. Between each color, I'm going to clean it. You may need to grab some extra white cardstock. Okay. You can use whatever ink colors you like. I'm going to use Cherry Cobbler for a couple of the more stockings. So, ink it up. There we go. I'm going to clean it off, and I'm going to stamp some of the other stocking design. Let's pull that out and grab some of the other ones. Place it on the block. Back to the Cherry Cobbler. Oh, make sure it's well inked. Okay. Do a couple of those. I'm going to change color and do Evening Evergreen color on the stocking in that same design. Oh, see, got to double check, make sure that's well inked. And I'm just going to do one because that's what fits on here. Okay. And we are going to cut these guys out. If you do have the dies, die cut them out. Otherwise, it's just takes a few minutes and just fussy cut them out. So, all right, I've cut these guys out. Now I have 4 people in my family, so I cut 4 stockings. You may have 3 or 2, and you can just cut that in your own family. And what we're going to do is, again, we're going to grab one of the tags that you have. I think I'm going to, let's see, there's a whole bunch of different tags that that came with what the package that you have. So choose the one that you like the best and stamp an image. I'm going to be using this little bow on the bottom. I really like that, so I'm going to be stamping that in Cherry Cobbler. So if you're going to be using that bow and then doing a sentiment, start with the bow itself on the bottom of the tag. I'm going to have mine going up and down like that. So I found it much easier when you start from the bottom. So I'm going to put the bow on. There we go. And I'm going to put the sentiment above that. So choose the sentiment that you like that fits onto your tag. I think I'm just going to take the simple Noel, and I will send this to my French friends for Christmas. Ink it up, and I'm just going to add that on. That looks really, look at that nice font on that stamp set. That looks fantastic. Okay, going to clean my stamps. And before I put the mantle on, I'm going to actually take a look. I'm just going to lay it down and decide which way I want my stockings going. So maybe I'll have it like that. That, red, green. So figure out which way you want your stockings to go. And I'm going to actually, when you figured out how you want your stockings laid out, you are then going to glue them on to the little mantle piece. So I want them to be different in color. And let's see. Once you figured it out, glue them down. Okay, I'm just going to glue these guys down. So I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the top portion and place it on my little mantle. And I'm starting from the left and the right. It's easier working from left and right and then into the middle. Okay. Oops. Maybe I want them at the same height. So I'll bring this one up a little bit more. Okay. Just on the top of the stocking. Oops, that's a little too close. There we go. And you want them nicely spaced out. Okay, so once I got my stockings on my little mantelpiece, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive just on these parts of the outside. I want the mantle to be well secured. So I'm going to put that on there. Now don't go too far down with the adhesive because it is only a small bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the corner and I'm going to tuck it up into the corner, and it's going to be flush with the top and bottom and the right side. I'm going to bring it across, bring it in, do the exact same thing. Okay. And it's now glued down. Now I have my sentiment, and you can pop it up on dimensionals or tuck it in and glue it straight down. Now you want it a little lower than the stockings so that when you're looking at it, you can see. All right, so and then that's it. Add some bling, Add some of the red rhinestones, add some Wink of Stella if you like, and that is your second card, which is called a bridge card. Okay, what do you think of that so far? Let's go on to the next card. All right, this card has a cherry colored, so that is Cherry Cobbler cardstock base, so let's look for that and grab that out. Okay, so, and in there is a piece of Sahara sand that we will have up in the corner there. Okay, so let's get that started. What we're going to do first is actually, we're going to take a look at some of the different designer papers that you can choose. I found that the really nice designer paper, like this one with the evening evergreen, looked really nice, and I'm going to match it with the little Sahara sand snowflakes on the back, and that was with the one that has these holly leaves, so it's on the back there. Okay, so what we're going to do is, you'll notice that it's angled. Also, we need a little bit of the red stripe again, so we're going to grab that and make sure it is long enough. You want to have a long enough piece for that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, when we lay the Sahara sand cardstock over top, we want it to have a nice edge around. And what's going to happen is, what we're going to do, let's take away the card base, and I'm going to lay across my 6x6 card designer series paper, and I'm going to angle it so that all of the pieces are covering. So I want to go across, okay, and I'm just going to lay it across like that, and maybe pull it back a little bit. It depends on how much you want. And what you're going to do is, you're just going to kind of wedge in the two pieces so that they kind of go across. And it's very important that you want to make sure that the corners are covered. So I want it to be like this. So what I'm going to do is just actually hold the point here, right? Bring up the designer series paper. And I'm just going to add a little bit of, maybe we'll just lift it up, a little bit of adhesive on each corner so that it will lay down. Okay, so I'm going to go back across. I want to make sure I get the corner of the top left. And, okay, so a little bit on that side. I'm going to tuck under the Sahara sand and making sure that I have covered the corners. And what I'm going to do is cut a little bit of strip with my trimmer, and now if you want your strips to go straight, you would use a different piece. I'm just going to use a little piece that that is a little extra. Cut it in half. They're about an inch wide, and I'm going to slip that under. Okay. And I want it to go on the left and the right. So it's going to go like that. So I'm just laying it down for now, and just to double check. So I like that. I like how that all fit in. I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive on the back, and then again tuck it under and go across. And I'm going to do the same for this side here. Okay. I don't want it to be overly heavy, so I'm just going to do a small amount going across. And what you're going to have to do, because this is overhanging that piece, if we turn it around, we're going to have to take our trimmer and trim off the excess pieces. So we're going to lay that down, and I'm going to line up the card mat piece in the track and just cut it off. Okay, and now this is going to give me a nice straight edge. I'm going to actually use it from the bottom, on the bottom here, line it up in the track, hold it, Now I'm not going to keep cutting all the way through because I can still use that portion. And I am going to didn't quite cut straight, so I'm going to cut this off just like that. And I just trim it a bit. And I want a nice even edge. Oh, it looks like I'm going to have to do that anyways. Take a little bit off, line it up in the track again, and recut it. Okay. Turn it. And I always want to use the edge to make it a nice straight edge there. Okay. So when I bring it around, it will be all nicely cut. What I want to do, I want to have a little greeting up here. Now, if you left more space, I did it nice and tight, or you can add a sentiment across here. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to fit in the sentiment that I think fits the best. I'm actually going to have the single word of Noel, and I'm going to stamp that in Evening Evergreen. I want to bring in the dark color from the Designer Series paper and carefully stamp that. Okay, just double check. All right, that looks really nice. Now, earlier we had stamped some extra stars, so I'm just going to cut out one of the ones from here, and we will add that on. I decided to cut out 3 of the stars as opposed to the original 1. I thought maybe I'll just add out, just like we did the very first card, space them around and add them on. Just kind of move them around. Let's try and figure that out. Okay, what I can also do is I can add some twine to it. In your package you should have some twine, and what you're going to do is you're going to double it over on itself and run it around and taped on the back. I'm just going to use some twine that I have left over, and I wanted to pick up the color of the brown that is in the cardstock there. So I'm just going to tape that down, and on the front I will add a bow, or you can make a bow in the twine, either way you want. Okay, so put that on. I'm just going to create a little bow itself, and then with the glue dots I will secure the bow onto where the twine is going around. Okay, kind of like doing it this way because then I can get the bow just the way I like it, and I can have the tails hanging off. Okay, going to get a glue dot, and I'm just going to place it on here. Actually, I might get a couple to hold that piece of twine down. Okay. There we go. And I'm just going to put the bow on top of that glue dot, just like that. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is, with the stars, you can do your choice if you just want to have one kind of tucked under or all 3. So it's up to you. So what you want to do. I think I'm going to use all 3 as opposed to the single. I'm going to have one kind of going across, and then the third one will be up on dimensionals. Okay, add some adhesive, and I'm going to be tucking this under the ribbon there. Okay, and a little bit of an angle. And the third one I wanted with the dimensionals. I'm going to pop that up. And of course, add some bling, a little bit of red dots here and there, and we are going to place that onto the card base, which is Cherry Cobbler. Okay, and there we go. That is our next card. I love how the designs go on that angle there. Moving on to the next card, which will be another type of fancy fold. We will have some different designer series paper, a couple of the stars, and the sentiment. So what we are going to do, let's get our trimmer again. And we are going to check out our package. There is the cardstock base that we want for the Evening Evergreen. And what we're going to do is we are going to do some scoring. So this is already pre-scored at 4 1/4. Okay, so we want that center score at 4 1/4. I'm going to take it back to 1 1/2, and I'm going to score there. And what I'm going to do is it's going to fold over like that. It is going to be shorter on that side than on the other. So as it lays flat, it is on this side. You can always, if you want, add some designer series paper to that side, which I will show you on the card that we're creating. Okay, so we have scored that. And what we want to do is in our packages, we are going to look and we want to add some designer series paper. I'm going to be using the soft seafoam, and it is cut to 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I have cut that down. Excuse me. And what's going to happen is as I lay this on here, it will be, the corner will be on this little flat part. So just to get it out of the way, I'm going to add it to that flap. I want to take that away. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive on that. Put a little bit, so there's a frame around, and double check to make sure it overlaps onto the other back piece. And so we want that. What we're going to do next is cut the pieces for the side in here. Now this does still stay exposed, and that's okay. We want it that way. We're going to cut another piece of designer series paper, red on one side, and I'm going to use the ones with this stripes on the other. So that, when we look at it, is 2 1/2, again by 5 1/4. And before I glue it down, I'm going to double check to make sure it fits, and there's a nice frame around. Once I know that the frame, it fits and it sits nicely, I'm going to add the adhesive and place that on that inner panel. Okay, so there's that inner panel. Now we are coming to this side of the panel. You have a choice. You can, if you want, add a piece of basic white simply straight across, or you could kind of break it up and then put like a piece of white over top for your sentiment. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this full piece straight white just for this one card. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take a 4 by 5 1/4, because I want to use that other piece for the outside as I want it on here. So I'm just going to use a piece of basic white. Just, you might have to grab another piece and just add it in. So that was 4 by 5 1/4. So if I close it, it's like that. You can leave it like this, or you can cover it with this piece here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add that in. And that should be, if I double check, it is 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to add the adhesive. Take that out of the way. And I'm going to add it to the back panel just out here. Okay, so when it's open, it looks like that. So the first card does not, it has the panel on the inside. It's up to you if you want it in there or on this side. I think I like it like this. And what I'm going to do now is wrap the ribbon. So I'm going to get my Evening Evergreen ribbon. And this time I'm not going to tape it to the back here. I don't want to do that. I want to lay the ribbon completely across and bring it down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the ends where the tag is going to overlap. So I'm going to get a tiny piece of adhesive. I know my sentiment is going to go thereabouts, and I'm going to bring that down and just tape it. So I'm going to go back over where the two meet. I'm going to give it a little snip, bring it across, and just again a little piece of adhesive. I don't want a huge piece, and I'm going to secure it down. So now if I take a sentiment tag, that is where I'm actually going to place my tag, is right on that little spot. Now, if you want, you can add a stocking to the top or a little star. So I don't think I have any more stars left over or cut out. I guess I have that little green one, but it doesn't have enough. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of basic white, and I'm going to stamp a couple of the stars in Bumblebee on a piece of basic white you might have to grab. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Oops. That one looks a little green, so I will do a couple of extra just to make sure that maybe I didn't clean it off very well. That's what happens when you mix colors. So I'm going to cut these two pieces out, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the little tag I have here, and I'm going to use the red, and double check to make sure whatever sentiment you use fits on the tag that you're decided to place on. It's just that since we have the inks out, let's just do all of those. So in the meantime, I'm going to cut out those stars. All right, I decided to cut out all 3 stars, and what I'm going to do is actually lay my sentiment on top, and then I'm going to just kind of stagger out my stars here, see how many I want to add on. I actually kind of like the idea of all 3 of them. Tuck one under there, and what I'm going to do is just now glue them down. Okay. So just have them at different angles. That one I might pop up on a dimensional. This one I will tuck underneath. Let's place the sentiment on dimensionals. And like I said, make sure it is well secured, and it is going to be hiding the end of our tape where we have everything together. Okay. Put that on top, and some dimensionals on the last star. What you can always do is add some Wink of Stella. Just make sure you dab and not brush, so to make the image, you don't want to smush it. So, and then we're going to add a little bit of the red embellishments. Okay, going to pop some of those on. Maybe I'll just add one right here. And I think that's it. That's all I'm going to add. I could always add more. So, and that's how we're going to make that card. So there we go. So there is the 2 without the strip on the back. This one has 3, got a strip on the front here, just so that you can decide which way you want it. I like it. I think I like the second one better. So there you go. Okay. Now this is one of my favorite kind of cards. I love this kind of postage stamp punch. It is fantastic, and I believe there is in your package. I already cut some of the postage stamps out for you. Not everybody has it, but I did for you just to add some in. So let's get that started. And in your package is a piece of white, and this is going to become our base here. Okay, so let's place that up over here in the corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by laying down different postage stamps. So I'm going to do it on the left-hand side, And I want a little bit of it kind of falling off, and so that they're spaced out, and a little bit on the bottom. So you might have to do some different maneuvering or figure out what you like. So flip them over, check out how you like that. Maybe I got two strong colors together. Maybe I'll do that, move it around. I really like this stripe and this green. I think what I'm going to do when I cut that off, I'm going to use that on the bottom down here. So when you have it designed on like the pattern that you like, start gluing it down. So you'll notice I'm not removing any of those. I'm going to lay the first one down, and I'm going to work my way through. Okay, and I'm going to keep it as best as I can in a vertical line with the same distance in between. Oh, geez, look. It's a nice dark pattern on this side. So I'm going to keep going through. Now, as I come to the end, I don't want to glue the whole thing. I'm just going to glue the portion that is touching the white card. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, turn it over, trim it off, and I'm going to use that piece on the bottom here. Okay. So it kind of anchors it all together. There we go. And I just trim that off again. Now you should have some extra pieces that if you want to decorate the outside or the inside or do another card with that, there should be enough. Okay, so look, I already got some pieces left over. I'll do that on another card. Okay. Now, on the original card, I had found, in this stamp set, I don't have any like little dots or anything. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these little holly berries, and I'm going to use a little bit, use them. And first I'm going to, because I know it's going to be hidden right under here. So let's actually take a little bit. I'm going to take some of that red. Now I know this portion right here is going to be hidden underneath, so I'm going to test it out if I want to use Sahara sand or red, but I think I like the red. I actually want it to stick out a little bit from the tag, so make sure it's well inked, and I'm going to kind of actually go around like that and down off to the bottom. So this part where all of the sticks are kind of going together, I know will be hidden by the tag. Okay, since we have this out, I know there is some on here. What I want to do first is stamp my sentiment on a postage stamp here. And I'm going to use Evening Evergreen. Again, finding a sentiment that fits. Okay, let's take, I think one or two of them fit better than the other. Let's see, does that fit? That actually fits really nice. It fills up that sentiment tag. So I think I'm going to use that. And I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen. And, oh, look, there was already red on there, so I better flip it over. There we go. Because I didn't clean it as well as I did. There we go. And I have that on there. Now, if I want, I could add some of those red berries. Now, I can see some of those red berries are going to be lost, so I'm going to bring up a little bit more. So up a little higher. Okay. And let's see how that looks. I know on right this looks like a total mess, but as I cover it over, and I'm going to move this across a little bit, and I'm going to pull it up just so it's a little bit on each side. Actually, I kind of like that. And I'm going to grab some ribbon to anchor it down and to add some to the back. Okay, I'm going to add the ribbon, and I'm just going to make one of those kind of, oh, what are they, kind of cross little things. And I'm just going to add it like that. If I want to make it longer, then I would just cut it here and just add the tails along the way. So, and let's pop it up with some dimensionals. There we go. Anchor it on so that some of those berries are hanging over, and add some little red embellishments if you like. And now we're going to add it to the card base. I love this kind of card. This punch is so fantastic. It is so useful. Any kind like that or the tailored tag looks really nice. So there you go. Very simple. Great card to make with just the punch. Okay. Let's get started on another card. What you're going to need for this card is in the package that you are going to be looking for a cherry cobbler base, which is already pre-scored at 4 1/4. This is a really super simple card, and it is a great way to use up all of your designer series paper if you have any 6x6s left over. What we're going to do, we need to take our trimmer, and what we're going to do is we're going to choose one of the designer series paper that you would like to use. You may want to use this one. This turns out really nice on this page, but what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this one with the holly berries. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now that is a basic measurement if you're taking down to make a mat all the way around. 4 inches by 5 1/4. Very simple card to make. So if we would to put it around, 4 inches. I think I need to recut that. Okay, there we go. 4 inches by 5 1/4. So it is going to have a very nice mat all the way around it. So that's the dimension that we want. In your package, you're going to see a piece of designer series paper that is a little darker with stripes. I have the one here that has just the herringbone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using that on here. And what I need to do is cut that down to 5 1/4. Yours is probably already pre-cut, but just in case, I cut it down to 5 1/4. Oops. By either 1 inch or just below 1 inch, or sorry, over 1 inch. So, yeah, just my mistake, under 1 inch. If you want a fatter border like this one, you would go to 1 inch. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4, so it goes all the way across. I found with the wider one, it becomes a little bit too heavy, but your choice is, it's up to you. If you want a thinner one, just cut it down. This is super simple, and all I'm going to do here is glue the designer series paper to the cardstock, and then add my strip of paper to the piece that I have done here. So let's place that together. And this is a great, like I said, this is a great way to use up all of your stock that you have, and you want to make some quick cards. Very simple, very fast. Okay, there we go. So it looks already really nice. In your package, you have a variety of tags. You can, what you can do, I just have strips. I'm just going to use strips, so just pretend these are tags. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's use them, I'm just going to splay them. Maybe I won't use that one, I'll just use these two, and maybe a piece of white with a sentiment, and I'll just splay them so that they kind of go offset. And what I'm going to do is maybe put one of the stars hiding the spot where I anchor it to the card. So you do have some tags, so you can use whatever sentiment you like. What I'm going to do is, this sentiment tag is a little wide for me, for what I want to use, but I'm going to see how that fits in, and I will cut it down to the size that I want to use. You may want to use a nice long, from another stamp set, a nice long sentiment, because the card is a long one. That is an option you might want to look at. So So let's get that on a block, and I'm just going to I'm going to show you by using the two colors. I'm going to use Evening Evergreen as the ink color. Make sure it's well inked. Okay, put it down there. And if you're going to go in between colors, make sure that you do a good cleaning job in between. You don't want to transfer any of that color from one to another. There we go. So you would have had that kind of shade to it, and it's not very pretty. I'll do a cherry cobbler one, and I'm going to use, I'll cut them both out and decide which one I want to use. Okay, so I'll just do another one there. To me, I don't know, it looks like the Evening Evergreen looks like the winner for me. In the meantime, I'm going to cut these a little bit thinner. I don't want such a thick border around, so I'm going to cut that down. And as I close this, I can see through the track if I'm going to be cutting any of the words out. So it's always good to check twice and just cut once. So, okay. Now I cut that row. And let's go with these ones. I'm going to cut these ones down a little bit. I like the stripes. Just cut these in half so I can use them both. There we go. Line it up. There we go. Now these are a little long for what I'm using, but I can always cut it down, so that is okay. Now what's on the other side? I want to see what my options are here. So I'm just splaying them around. It will go kind of like this. And I am actually, what I'm thinking of doing, I'm going to have these pieces a little longer. This is the part where you want to kind of juggle around your ideas. And I'm going to flag the ends. I'm just thinking here, so I'm going to flag these ends, each one. Fiddle around with the tags to see what you like the best. Okay? These are where some really good ideas can come from. And one more. There we go. And what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to splay these. I'm going to stagger them like this. There we go. Maybe I'll do it like that. A little bit more of an angle. And I'll splay it. Oh, that looks actually really, really cool. Now I'm going to just add a little bit of tape to hold them in place. It's not gluing it, but it's just going to hold it for now. I'm going to put a little bit, I'm going to cut that off. And to make my life easier, I'm just going to cheat and do a little staple. Now that's going to hold it. That's all I needed to do. I needed to hold it. Nobody's going to see, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it like this, and then I'm going to put one of the stars on top or something like that. What I decided to do is I'm going to go with the little stocking, and I just grabbed something from my little ribbon kit. In your package you might have some twine, but I didn't have any twine, so I just grabbed whatever I had in my little ribbon box. And I'm just going to add it to the back, and I'm going to make kind of like a figure 8. And tape it, make some loops. Just kind of go around, and let's see how that looks. And if I don't like it, I can always take it off, right? That actually looks kind of interesting. So one loop. I'll make a couple of loops, like a little bow on the top. So adding a little bit of ribbon behind it kind of gives it a little bit of a design. There. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that sentiment down, kind of off to the side. I'm not going to center it left and right too much. I'm going to have it a little bit slightly off center, so it's pleasing to the eye. and add my little stocking, or if you have the star stamped in yellow, that'll look really nice too. So I'll add that. And if you want, there are some red little gems in your case, and just put some bling on, and there you go. An easy way to use up your designer series paper. This card is actually a very, very simple card to create, but what I think makes it look really stunning is the background here. This is actually a die that is found in the annual catalog. This die that is back here is actually called Stitch Greenery, and it is actually a hidden gem that is in the annual catalog. This would work great on any Christmas card or any card that you're creating with flowers. So this Stitch Greenery is found in the annual catalog on page 165, and it's $44. Now it is a full 5.5 by 4 and a quarter, maybe a little bit larger. It is quite large, and so it will do the whole front of the card, so it does look really, really nice. And these are from the dies that are found in the annual catalog on page 163, and they are the Forever Flourishing dies for $49, and that coordinates with the Forever Fern stamp set. So these are really, really nice, very simple, and all we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our Sahara sand, and we're going to be adding a piece of ribbon just across. But before we do that, we're going to lay down our leaves, and you're going to arrange them any way you like. So you can do it vertical, but I know one of you have done it. I'm going to try it landscape. One of you had done it landscape, and I thought it turned out stunning, so I'm going to give that a try. So this is what it would look like in the portrait mode. Very simple. You just lay down your leaves and place the ribbon across, just hiding everything under the tag here. So I'm going to make this one go landscape, so we can take a look. This was a great idea. I thought it was fantastic. Now, one thing is I need you to point out is this gold sparkly paper that you have in your pack is no longer available. When I created the packages, I didn't have any gold at the moment, so I had to use what I had in hand. So I'm just going to splay that across, completely across the card, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of tape. I'm not gluing it down, I'm just going to add a little bit of tape to anchor those stems here, and get my glue dots, and you'll see these bigger pieces. I can hide some glue dots under that, and that is exactly what I'm going to do by putting the glue dots underneath. I don't need to do every single one. Oh, that one's kind of peeking out, so we'll tuck him in. You don't want any of the glue sticking out because it will stick onto everything, the envelope, and it will rip as it comes out. You don't want to do that. So I'm just putting it under one to anchor it. And I'm going to find this one. I'm going to have to roll up the glue dot a little bit because these pieces are a little bit smaller, these leaves that I'm hiding it under. Okay, and I just want to anchor that so it doesn't move around. There we go. So it was just one glue dot under each one. In the meantime, I'm going to get my sentiment tag. You have a nice long one. I'm just going to grab whatever I had on hand. And where is the ribbon? You can use the twine if you like, or the evening evergreen ribbon. It just goes straight across, and we tape it on the back. Okay, a piece of tape to get started, and I shall start that over here. And just carry, actually I'm going to tuck it under. I want the leaf on the top. I really like that. There we go. Maybe I'll tuck that under there too. Really like those leaves. And I'll tape it on the back. dimensionals. Just put our dimensionals on with, whoops, that's crooked. So let me just remaneuver that. Make sure it's flat. There, that's a little better. I'm gonna maneuver that. Oop. And I'm just gonna put on a tag. Now I'm just using a tag that I had in my stash. But yours, use the nice long one. It looks really nice. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tag right over that area where it all comes together. Okay. And from there, I'm going to place it on my card base, which is also Evening Evergreen. And that is done. Very simple. So it is done. This one's done landscape. The other one is done portrait. I think these are really easy. Love the background. That really is what sets it off. So, not a very busy project. This is a super easy one to do lots of cards with. So, have fun. I left this card to the very end because what we want to do is we want to use up some of the scraps that we have left over. Now what I've done is there underneath, when you look, there's a piece of photocopy paper, and I'm going to be using that. I don't have one with me, so it is actually a piece of just plain old paper cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm just going to cut that, create one for myself, and this is going to be what I'm going to be gluing all of my scraps onto. What I'm going to do now is grab some of the scraps that are roughly about 2 inches, and I want them all to be 2 by 4. So let's grab some of those. I've got some that we've used before, so I'm just going to cut that. Just cut that down. I want nice square or rectangular pieces, and I'm just going to grab a whole bunch, see what else I got left over, and that's what we will be using. So, but they have to be at least 4 inches long. That's one of the trick. So I'm going to take this, cut it to 4 inches, and it will be 2 inches. No, it had to be longer than that. Sorry, it had to be almost, has to be, go all the way across. Yeah, 4 inches across. Yes. So that piece would have worked. Let's just go back. So it goes across. Yep, 4 inches by 2. Has to be at least 4 inches by 2. Okay, so you want to cut at least 3 or 4 of those 4 inches by 2. Okay, cut these 2 at the same time. Okay, as you're going to cut them all, and what we're going to do is with these pieces, so I got some of them already started. I'm going to cut kitty corner to kitty corner. So I'm going to lay it in, put one end in the track and the other on the bottom. And I'm just going to cut like that, so I end up with 2 rectangles, triangles. The rectangles turn into triangles. And I'm going to do that for all of the pieces that I have. Okay. And what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm just going to lay them down. I'm not going to glue them. I'm just going to lay them down and see how they look to me. Do I want to add something different, or do I want to add another piece in? Okay. Turn it over. Maybe I want to add, so you're going to take a little bit of time and seeing what side you want to use. So we need to have a piece of, just a piece of photocopy paper that we can work with. We want to have the pieces, the strips across. It doesn't matter what pattern you use. You want to have them, at least leave them at 6 inches across. So let's cut a few of these. So I want it at 6 inches. So I'm going to use this side, maybe turn it that way, and we're just going to cut them roughly to about, okay, 1.5 or 1 3/4 inch. So I'm going to bring them in. I'm leaving them at 6 inches, and I'm going to cut them across. Okay, so, and I'm going to do that for, I want to get a few different colors, different patterns. That's why we leave this to the very end. So I'm going to go through these and choose what I want. So maybe I'll have a piece of the Sahara sand. What's on the other side? Okay. I think we already had a piece of Sahara sand in here. I like that, and I like that. That one I don't need to cut. So I'm just going to choose from what I think is going to be a nice kind of design. I'm going to add some of this bright red in there. So leaving it at 6 inches, 1 3/4. Okay, and there we go. I might have some extras pieces, so let's bring those across. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut each one on a bit of an angle. Okay. So I'm not going to put it, I'm going to put each one in point by point on the opposite. So this way it cuts really nicely in a straight line. So each point across. So I'm going to show you that again. I take my piece. This is a larger piece, but 1 point in the track, the opposite kitty corner in the track, line them up and cut, right? And I'm going to keep doing that for all of them. So kitty corner into the track and into the track. Now I have this piece already. Let me take a look at the other side before I cut. I'm going to actually use the other side because I want that pattern. Again, have I got this side? I'm going to flip it over. Kitty corner. It's always being cut the same way. Okay. I got this one. Oop, gotta make sure my kitty corner is the same. There we go, kitty corner. And if not, I'll just have to flip it over and use the other side. So, and maybe we'll just do one or two more. If not, we can always use those pieces. Don't get rid of these pieces. You can use this for a starburst pattern. It works really well too. Okay, so you want to hold on to those pieces that you don't use. Okay, so we now have them all cut. And what I'm going to do now, let's get them all together. I have them here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them across. I'm not gluing them down yet. And I want to leave, so the point is a little further out, so it leaves a bit of, like you'll notice on here, a little bit of, it doesn't come to a straight point. So, and then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to do the opposite. Okay. It's okay if it overhangs a little bit, that's fine. It doesn't have to be straight, so even if I have that one overhanging a little bit, go over here, and maybe I'll take this one. I'm going to bring it all the way back and have some of the point come down so that, you know, it's different shapes, different designs there. So if I want to bring this one in, the wedge, if I pull it back, the wedge will become smaller or larger. So I'm going to just do that, and I'm going to continue working my way down. I really love this paper, this side of the green paper. And okay, I'm going to keep going. Maybe I'll end with the red. I can always start from the bottom with the red. It's, you know, however you want. So it's all on how the wedging comes in. Okay, so once you have it designed, if you want more, pull the wedges out a little bit more, and then you can get more pieces in. If you use the fat parts of the wedge, the pattern will be, you'll use less paper, okay, but using the smaller portions of the wedge. So this one's overhanging. Just kind of keep going back and forth. Once you've decided how you want it done, kind of slide it off. Try and keep it in the same pattern if you can. You're going to add adhesive to the photocopy paper. And you want to make sure that you have it on the edge, the top, and the bottom, especially where you start and finish. Okay, so I'm just going to start, and I'm going to put my wedge at the top, and you want to make sure it is nice and flush with the end of your paper. So I might have to lift that up just to see. Okay, you want it nice and flush. Okay, and now I'm going to start working with the wedges. So I want more paper, so I'm going to use the smaller parts of the wedge. Oops, it's all sticky. So I'm going to use the smaller parts of the wedge, and I'm just going to butt them up against each other. So you can see as I'm going across, they do fit in nicely together. And let's see, what else have we got? I'm going to want to use something a little different. Oh, let's put this one in. And I just keep going back and forth. I'm going to use the larger piece of that wedge. And, oh, that's actually, no, I don't think I should do that. Because I don't want the dark color against the dark color. There we go. That's a little better. Now I can use that wedge. And I'm going to finish up with the red on the bottom. So, okay. So there we go. Now it's all nicely glued down. Hold on to these pieces because we can use them for starburst patterns later. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to trim off the part that is overhanging. Now, because this is photocopy paper, okay, and I started at the one spot, so I know that is a clear flat edge. I want a nice clear flat edge up against the trimmer. Whoops, there we go. The trimmer base. I'm going to get it as close to the track as possible. And even though it might cut off a little smidgen, that's okay. And I'm just going to trim all that off. This is one of the most fun cards to make. And there we go. And I just pull that aside, and it leaves us with this great looking design on the front. Now, you can add twine around if you want. Let's see, I'm going to do that. I had made a bow, but I find that it seems to loosen up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually place this around. Now in your case, in your package, there should be a piece of white, and you're going to stamp your sentiment, and that's going to go across. Now you can choose a long, large sentiment or a very thin one. In the meantime, I'm just going to put this on. Okay. Or you can always do the ribbon after. This way you can decide where you want to place your sentiment. Do you want it on top? Do you want it on bottom? So it's up to you. I'm going to just add it to the top because I know roughly about where I want my sentiment to be. Okay, and I will add a bow just like I did before and hold it down with the dots. So I don't want to lose the image of the paper, so I'm going to try and find a sentiment that kind of goes across and doesn't use up too much space. So let's see. Oops, what do we got here? There's so many choices. Which one do I want? you know what, I think I'm just going to do one small little word, and I'm going to, because I seem to have a lot of green, I'm going to pop that up with the green. I really love the evening evergreen. Okay. And I'm going to do a small little tag just with the words. I do have this where I've used the little holly berries and added some hollies on there. You can do that with your sentiment too. It's up to you. You can do that after you cut it or after you've set it up. So once again, lay it in the track. I'm looking through this see-through part of the trimmer. I'm afraid it might cut that, so I'll bring it down a little bit. Oh, good thing I did that. There we go. And if I bring it across, you know what, I really could add some of the little holly berries to that to add something, or I could just cut it out. Just leave it like that with a nice little fishtail. So it's up to you. You can leave it across like I did if you have a larger sentiment. Because this is a smaller sentiment, actually, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that fishtail kind of end. And flip it over, look for my words, go a little closer. There we go. I wanted to give you the option that if you wanted to, you could go all the way across. And I'm actually going to add that. Have it hang over, and then I'll cut off the excess piece. So I'm going to have it onto the edge like that. And then I can add my bow. My bow would fit really nicely on there. So it's up to you on how you want to do your sentiment. If you want to add a little bit more, like those little berries and stuff like that, don't forget to add it with the embellishments. You want to do that. And with the glue dot, I'm going to secure down that bow. I think that's going to look really nice on that corner there. That looks really good. I love that. Don't forget, add it to your card base. Okay. I love this kind of card making with the scraps. Uses them all up. Always hold on to your scraps. Add it on, and there you go. That's one of my most favorite cards to make. Scrap cards. Fantastic.